Dante, what's up?
Dr. Caveat, I got a strange female in the bed with me.
All right, what's the problem?
She dead, dog.
Calm down.
You think you're the first person I've dealt with woke up in bed with a dead body?
Where are we with the Tommy Wheeler thing?
Guy has a $200 million movie coming out in a month. Picks up a tranny on Sunset Boulevard.
I didn't know it was a guy, I swear.
Guy had an Adam's apple the size of my fist!
Let me handle this.
We've done bad things, Ray. I've asked you to fix things that should never have been fixed.
How many years are you gonna look out for them, huh? What about your own son, your daughter? What about us?
Stop being dramatic. Everyone's fine.
We're not fine. I hate it here.
The old man, he got out.
He wasn't supposed to be out for 5 more years.
My father's coming.
He's coming here?
Tell me you're gonna take care of this.
I took care of it then, didn't I? You let him near this family, everything we worked for, it'll be over.
You're sick, Ray. You got a hole in your heart.
Whatever you think happened, it was 10 times worse. Don't let the wolf in the gate, Abby. What are you doing here, Mick?
You set me up, mother. 20 years. Now look at you. Such a big shot.
Did you come?
No. You go near my family, I'll kill you.
I'm an old man. I need to make it right.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Cam. We are here for another free-flowing chat on another complex TV epic. Returning to the show of Who Was She? We got Tara Jabbari. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Introducing to the show, Katie Geilenkirchen. How are you?
Oh, how are you?
Never been better. Formerly of Screen Junkies and now on Twitch, Hal Rudnick is here.
Thanks for having me, Cam. And I might have to break out a Boston accent on occasion over the course of this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc. Oh, yeah. Going to PacTaCon, Harvard yet.
That should be a requirement.
Go Sox. Go Sox.
Oh, that was actually one of my favorite parts of the show, is the Bostonian accents.
Bostonian accents. I mean, we could order Boston Market, but that's not the same.
Absolutely not.
So we are talking about the very complex, very controversial, and very heated Ray Donovan drama that ran for 7 years and a movie on Showtime. It deals with professional fixers and all other sorts of unethical that happens in the underbelly of Los Angeles.
The other scandal.
Right. And later at Staten Island in New York.
Hello. I tell you something I did.
Ray?
Something bad.
Trust me.
She runs downhill. Father to son. Father to daughter.
Raised in a whorehouse. Beat every day. That's probably a reason Mickey is the way that he is. I'm having a fire sale. 20 mil.
You heard from my father?
He's not going up there for the money. He's gonna kill Mickey.
You know, it makes you so alike. Mickey taught you how to forget.
Forget what, sweetheart?
Someone's life.
Can't hold a man accountable for getting vengeance.
It has to end.
What did you do?
I let the wolf in.
You know what would have been a good crossover with Ray Donovan if you got Harvey Keitel's character, the Wolf, who was one of the great fixers in movie history from Pulp Fiction. Fixer versus Fixer.
Yeah, 1,000%. I could see this crossing over with all sorts of Tarantino or David Ayer Training Day type stuff. Half the crew of like that, it's a symbol. Like I was already, I mean, obviously this owes a lot to any other post Breaking Bad Sopranos show, but I was even getting shades of The Shield or Prison Break. And
yeah,
obviously we got other similar shows that are on now, like the Yellowstone and Power franchises. Those are good examples of how like they show how pretty much every aspect of society, like everyone's hypocrisy comes to full ugly light.
Yeah, maybe a little Bosch in there as well.
Bosch is a very good sample because like everyone was looking at that and just saying, oh, it's going to be another procedural. It's like, no, it's got so many layers on how the modus operandi of the LAPD works, how the main character later becomes a private eye, and everyone's just looking at each other like, you betrayed me. I'm like, no, I'm doing my job.
Is anyone here a Peaky Blinders fan?
The Peaky Blinders is a wonderful example, Katie. I have not seen the other seasons.
There were a lot of parallels. Yeah. I'm very upset because it was just the last season of it, and I just feel like
season 4 or 5,
6.
See, that was another.
They're really
one.
short. There's only 6 episodes, but no Emmy nominations.
It's like the company and distribution platforms kept screwing it up, and everyone, it was kind of like Luther, where everyone is like major movie star trying to schedule around a show. And even though they're doing 4 episodes, it's just like making the time as near impossible. It's just like, geez. So they made it. And then just as they got their audience, they had to stall filming. And it's like, man, I thought it was canceled for the longest time before Netflix brought it up.
Well, it was like a 2-year hiatus before the final season. But there were a number of parallels, one of which was the lack of awards. So Ray Donovan, I think John Voight was the only one.
Yeah, I didn't see much.
Any kind of
one?
The cinematography got a lot of accolades, but it was over in Canada.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, there were a number of nominations, but no Emmys. The only person that got an Emmy was a guest star. I think it was Hank Azaria, and I honestly don't even remember which character he played. But
he was the crooked former FBI head who later becomes a shady.
Every once in a while.
That's right. But John Voight did win a Golden Globe. But other than that,
nice.
I mean, it was the shutout.
Yeah. I remember Liev Schreiber was saying he always wanted one of his kids to be his date at the Emmys, and because he did get nominated like almost every year, and they're like, "Don't worry, he'll never win. He won't win." So they wouldn't feel bad if they said no to being his date.
We mentioned this a lot on the Power TV franchise, where we kind of got a sense that because the show brings so many truths kind of to light, that it just wasn't ever going to be an Emmy favorite. Because I mean, Power is such a big show, and there's no denying it. Like it's even multiracial appeal, and yet because there's either just a bizarre jury or what have you, or they just hate how it's going into uncomfortable levels on society and the political structure within that. I think a lot of the same is kind of can be said about this. It's like
I think it might be a little bit of that, but I also think Ray Donovan, it strikes me a little bit more as just slightly more of a comfort food kind of show as opposed to the prestige kind of show. Like, there's a difference between Ray Donovan and a Mad Men or a Succession or something like that. I don't think it quite rises to the quality. I mean, it's a hell of a fun watch. Yeah. But I feel like it's a little bit more of a meat and potatoes, like just kick-ass kind of show, as opposed to, especially in the later seasons.
That's a good way of putting
quality
about this.
Dips
because
a little bit.
Other people would go to levels to say it's an action show, even though IMDb doesn't want to list it as such, and is like, there are some. I mean, we'll get into the writing and everything, and just like which ones are written better, which subplots kind of go nowhere, and it does seem like a lot of the shows like these. I mean, I think you are right, because like Succession is definitely one of those shows I would never want to rewatch it, but at the same time, it definitely blows my mind every episode. So I think you could definitely give more accolades to the writing on that.
Or even Breaking Bad,
yeah,
right.
You know, Breaking Bad is. I just had COVID and I was sick, and there was a Breaking Bad marathon on, and I was watching it, and I was just marveling about how damn good the run up to the end was, and I was like comparing it in my mind to Game of Thrones with how disappointing the last season and a half or so were, but like thinking about Ray Donovan in comparison, like, you know, it just it seemed like a little bit of a rudderless ship towards the end.
Ray Donovan had much more characters and different. You have his clients, then you have four, right, including the half sibling, and the kids, then the wife. While Breaking Bad or Succession a little bit closer, so you're not all over the place. It's in that sense, it's a little bit like Game of Thrones. You're like, which storyline is Hank Azaria part of again? You know,
endless guest stars and recurrings. While I agree with like the quality of the show, and while it wouldn't have won maybe best show or a writing award or something, the acting was phenomenal in my opinion. And
don't get me wrong. There's going to be some annoying characters on here, but I can't at all say that any of them gave a bad. Oh yes, but yeah, I'm not. I can't say
Terry.
Terry and definitely Bunchy. Oh my god, but I can't say that any of them are bad actors. Not even close. And
they're annoying, but I think they're still like in their own way. I guess I came around to them in that their characters were so fully developed that. You know, like they're real people. Like Bunchy's annoying. He's kind of supposed to be. Terry I just thought they did a really good job.
Yeah. Like and you could tell like each brother was flawed in his own way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
none of them look alike, but you don't question that they're related.
And notice how we're all good with our words. None of these people are good at talking to each other. You know, Ray especially is the runt initially. And
they communicate with their fists.
And the more they're around each other, the more they want to be sheltered and be like, just, you know, lock themselves in their room, just go away, you know, until it's time to eat and go to work. You know, this is like, so, I mean, I do like how I will give this show especially points for how it later even tackles mental health near the end. Because I mean, we're still just finding every day and week just people who have had just kind of midlife crisis, but it was more than just that, you know, just they could not physically just admit what was a big issue in their lives growing up, because we kind of just find that so many of us kind of have a robotic upbringing at times where it's just like, just, you know, do good in school, get a great job, get married, have a family. And it's like, this show definitely, I think, hits home on just unrealized potential and just how everyone wants to deal with their job. And in this case, we have characters who have had basically just never really had a great chance, and they're just still trying to find some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, so Ray is the fixer, played by Liev Schreiber, who you might have seen in so many different movies, Salt and Sum of All Fears and countless other movies. Abby's played by Paula Malcolmson of Deadwood fame. It's the spouse.
Love her. She's so great.
Yeah, totally.
Very sad when can we give spoilers on here for folks?
Oh, we're gonna be total spoiler.
When her character passed away, I feel like she was just such an asset to the show. I was really sad to.
It was a surprise. The show I thought was going to be kind of just getting very comfortable, but after season 3, it pretty much we got to do a change up every season. And so, yeah, the brothers are Terry and Bunchy. Pooch Hall, the sitcom guy, plays Daryl. He's basically the half brother. John Voight plays Mickey, the estranged mob boss dad. And Susan Sarandon is the powerful Hollywood producer who's also has a bunch of tragedies that she reveals. The crew of Ray is none other than Lena, played by Catherine Moning of The L Word, and Avi, played by Stephen Bauer of Breaking Bad and Scarface fame.
Oh, I like when I saw that that Stephen Bauer was in this, I'm like, I would watch it just for him. It's
great. He's great.
Yeah.
Also, he's very handsome still.
Yeah, he's gone through a lot, and I still see a bit of his youthful face at times, even though he did
aging like a fine wine.
Aging like a fine wine.
It took me a while. It was like season 5 where I'm like, oh my God, it's the guy from Scarface.
Scarface.
Was he a boxer or something? Because it's not just surgery, because he has had work done, but that was why it took me a while to realize.
He's Cuban born, apparently. But yeah, he is one of those kind of like Martin Sheen in a way, because of just how light tan he is. You kind of do forget, oh, he is kind of mixed, and you don't always he doesn't have, and I say this carefully, just kind of the general Latino look that just like, oh, dead giveaway.
It's obviously Israeli.
A Mediterranean look to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am glad that he's been able to kind of, however he comes about these accents, to do kind of, I mean, here he's playing an ex-Mossad agent, so he's implied as being Israeli, and this is definitely a good demo reel. I mean, looking at all the guest stars, but like even as I was watching the movies, I annoy anyone who I'm watching TV with because they think I'm playing around on Instagram when really I am taking notes, because there's only so much time in a day, and I just sometimes I want to remember what was a kick-ass plot twist or an amazing one-liner. Where was it said? And pretty much recognized a bunch of the key guest stars and from other things. So Ann Biderman, who exited the show after about the second season, was the Emmy-winning writer on NYPD Blue, and later created Southland for NBC and later TNT. And this was her venture into Showtime to do kind of her take on just showing, again, just this unethical lifestyle that basically this troubled reuniting family is facing. And the first 5 seasons are set in LA. The first 3 mainly deal with just everything from power brokers to unethical movie producers to FBI and the LAPD trying to target the Donovan family after finding them attached to so many questionable, overdoses and crimes. And basically from there, season 4 and 5 deal with just everything from casino owners to other mobsters. We're talking even just, Russians and other people entering the deal.
Season 4 is my personal favorite.
I'll definitely venture on that one too. And the final 6 and 7 seasons deal with a very unexpected move to Staten Island, where Ray is now in hot water with not only a giant NYPD manhunt and a bunch of other corruption, but also a giant power play between 2 up and coming senators running as governors. And it is kind of interesting. I have seen a lot of hate for season 4, and yet I really dug that season a lot. I had my issues with season 5, and I think they're all worth very checking out. But by season 6, there were so many segments with the brothers, Terry and Bucci, where I'm like, please fast forward. I get that we need these moments, but they're just elongating. And it just was almost a Game of Thrones moment where I'm like, I feel like you're just trying to get to 40 minutes when really this could have been wrapped up 3 episodes ago.
I'm curious, because both Tara and Cam, you both mentioned those 2 brothers, but you're not so much caring for them. I'm curious.
They're great actors. And I do like, especially how Bunchy finds like a life with the
Teresa?
luchador gal, played by Elisa Diaz, who you guys
It doesn't last.
It doesn't last, and I just hated how he's such a dick to her. He's like, hey, she's my property, but I got no one to care for my kid. It was like, well, what the hell, dude? Oh man,
he was the harder one. I do like Terry the most out of all of them, because but the actor, I was like, God, he must have had a lot of physical therapy, because he played so well.
He plays it so believably. His hands are shaking.
It gets worse. Better, then it goes worse. And I don't know how he did it.
And sadly, when you see Alan Alda in later seasons, you can tell he must have Parkinson's or something. because his hands are very shaky. Alan Alda, one of the great TV
They
actors.
do try to hide it, but there are a few angles where it's like I feel like that line was 80 yard in after the fact.
Possibly, yeah.
Or just like a palsy of sorts.
We've seen too many movies, so after a while, we will see, lips not moving in the back or something that seems like a reshoot.
And Terry never really gets his happy ending. He does sort of get, I can't remember.
It does get annoying how he is the first fall guy half the time. He is almost always.
Does anybody have a happy ending? I think that's part of it, right? Like none of them.
Well, Connor, he gets to go in the army.
You're right. It's the only thing that makes sense for him, especially when he gets all snobby and annoying to his
Connor
dad.
was my least favorite.
Oh man,
this little shit.
The kids really drove me nuts at first, but I grew to really like them as they got older. And in fact, Bridget really grew on me. Her full
Bridget
circle.
is good, but man, does she have terrible taste in boys.
Oh, well, that's pretty typical.
Smitty and her
Teenager.
rapper boyfriend. Oh my God.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just like, Smitty, you are a dipshit. You're a dipshit. You should never go anywhere.
Teacher. I remember that. And I'm like, how is
I
she?
forgot about the teacher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
yes.
God.
I know.
That guy was like a sleaze.
And at the same time, I mean, it's just a good way to build conflict because anytime that they reprimand their kids, they're always going to say, "But you've done something illegal at work the other day." And it's like,
one of my
Mom, you sleep with every other crooked cop.
Funny because it's like they're trying to hide a dead body and Connor's completely clueless. It's one of the funniest scenes in the show.
Is it season 4 or 5 when there's a break-in in like the premiere?
It's season 4 because
that's right.
I watched that season a lot. Because I really like the storyline with Ismael Cruz Cordova.
I really dug that because we don't talk enough about how, I mean, it kind of needed to go there because like in many ways how these fixers are basically kind of unleashed, dogs, just doing something illegal, and they're almost like spies and assassins in a way where, you're fine, but if you get caught, we're not going to bust you out, unless we pick a friend of a friend of a friend with connections to blackmail these governors who are posing this, FBI investigation for ratings. And at the same time, so even though they're not NSA, it is interesting seeing how, again, boxers are very much the same thing, just terrible insurance, don't have a good upbringing, taken advantage of by their, misogynistic managers. And in this case, he's had a relationship with his half sister and she's
raped by
Bonet.
Yeah, great casting on that. I saw so many famous names attached to this show before I even got into it. And it's like, whoa.
Literally everyone's in it. Yeah.
What happened that I liked it, and I was doing a little bit of research when the show was coming on as it was going on live, but also for this preparation. And as each season almost always has at least 2 or 3 other storylines other than the main characters, right? Like a client or something.
1,000%.
And the creators of the show and the directors and the writers, they're like, Lisa and Ismael took it upon themselves to meet up privately and have a whole backstory of them growing up.
That's doing your homework.
When did they first cross that line?
All that definitely felt like
you don't need
more
to do that. And they're like, yes, we do. And I'm like, I think it works because it's my go-to season to see how broken. I was like, I feel like they're the only other family that is as broken as the Donovans.
Yeah, that's very true.
More
Because
so
the
than
rest of the time,
clearly the Britney Spears character that's in the first couple of seasons.
I didn't think of that. I was thinking of so many other similar starlets, but that's a good point. The Nellie James actress character
and a bunch of other people, but just of
who do you think Jay White, the guy who accidentally kills his sensei while he's prepping for a martial arts movie? Do you think that's based off Katie's favorite Michael B. Jordan, or is that someone else? Who could that be based off of? Because it seems like
I don't know.
Oh, maybe Wesley Snipes and Blade.
It may very well be, because you've always heard all these stories about all these impossible guys who they're great if you cater to their ego, but at the same time, it's so funny seeing at that time when Daryl decides, to buy his dad's, script, and then he cuts his dad out of it because his dad's, the biggest racist on the planet. Hey, I love my boys, but that guy's a da, da, da. I was like, shut the fuck up. We're not making your Brooklyn screenplay. It's becoming a blaxploitation, type tribute movie. And it's just so funny. That was good casting, having Turk from Scrubs, Donald Faison, as the producer. He's like, come on, man, you got to play the game. You got to be on their level. And it's so funny how he's just kind of trying to be a good person, but he's just wimpy most of the time until he's asked to basically, help murder people along with Bucci and Ray and company. And it's just so funny how he's just like, it is kind of one of those things. It goes back to even the first rule of directing. If you want people to follow your lead, you can't back down. And I mean, I do the same thing every day with security. I encounter all kinds of kind of just petty people who just refuse to leave, various sites. And if you back talk, you're being just as bad as them, and noise disruptive. And at the same time, you can't show your hand. When I tell them, please leave the pool, you're waking everyone up. I have to press, the 911 thing. That's my last call. That's all I can do. But I can't be there all night either when I got a bunch of various things to travel around and secure. And this is kind of the same way here where, everyone's having to be on each other's levels. Like you lose track of how many times everyone just tells to go jump off a cliff. I'm not going for that deal. And I do think it gets more, people love it because it's a more humanistic drama. It's not a, who whacks who, just bottom of the barrel mafia movie. It's, in many ways, this is pretty much just how much baggage can you deal with before you break. That's pretty much.
I think you really were touching on something important in regards to the show earlier, Cam, when you were talking about how it portrays mental health, and it really resonates. And as everyone, as Katie and Tara were talking about the kids, with Bridget and Connor, and it's been past, it's generational trauma.
Yeah.
It starts with John Voight, it goes to the brothers, and then Ray, like it or not, has passed down this horrific trauma to the kids. And the kids have seen all this. And I think it's actually much more than I may have even given it credit for. Like, there's a level of depth to the way it portrays trauma being passed down in families.
Oh, 1,000%. Like, and we kind of see
healed, right? Like we always thought it was just Bunchy that was abused by the priest, and then
and as it goes on, it's like
he tried it with Terry, couldn't do it,
right?
And it was really Ray, and that Mickey said, "Shut up." It's not true. Ray said something. And didn't listen.
Well, it's significant. So they all have this shared trauma in multiple ways.
And isn't that wild? When they
abuse, it's their family life. It's they were in Southie.
Growing up, and your dad is your dad's like beating up people for the mob and selling coke and you're gonna
the one person that they could trust. He was Bridget, the sister that we know died.
Had her own trauma.
We had our own trauma. That
at first you don't know what the vision is.
My father figure, and he was raping my sister and caused her to.
Oh, there's just so much. But so they have that shared, which brings them closer as brothers. But then they also, it's like it comes out in all of them, but in very different ways.
When they get to the Sullivans, oh man, and Ray's admitting, hey, you were my childhood crush, that's so wild. When he then questions their mafia dad, he's already having to deal with their mobster brother who's trying to instigate a gang war and doesn't like any of the other guys very much. But when Ray comforts James and he's like, did you lay a hand on my dead sister? And he doesn't even wait for the answer. He just flat out splats his head.
Yeah, love it. But Ray becomes his father, who he hates.
It does get annoying.
Masculine, and Bunchy's a mess, and Terry's also a mess because of his dad. And so there's that. And then to your point about the realism, that is part of it. It showcases how a real family that is, and very few families are perfect. Most families have some dysfunction, I would imagine, just not to that level, probably.
Let's hope also, not. But yeah, everyone has something dumb.
Activities.
We had our quirks, we had our perfections and imperfections, but yeah, when it gets to where it's just like, just don't bother having a birthday party because I know it's going to be the worst fucking day of my life.
Oh my gosh, how terrible! But the way they look as well, the casting, I think, like,
Elliot freaking Gould as Israel, his main client, and Denise Crosby from freaking Star Trek and Pet Sematary. It's so wild. At first, we don't even realize, like you guys mentioned in season 5, it's like, oh, but the wife of the family, Abby, has passed away. At first, it takes us a while to realize, it's like, what's Ray remembering? Oh, wow. Oh, all this trauma back and forth. And now he can't even bear to look at the house, even though he kills for a living. This is way too close to home. And he's telling Deb, is like, hey, I did everything I could for your late husband. Just do me this one last favor. Sell this house. Don't care what the price is. Just get it out of here so I don't have to look at it anymore.
You guys also appreciate that they looked like real humans, like they weren't all these perfect looking actors.
Even the recurring guys who, we just think are just so scum. It's just like they, like you say, I mean, I'm so glad you did that background on the season 4 main storyline, Tara, because that does really feel, all these actors feel like they did their homework. It's not just the fact that they're veterans who've been acting for years and all other sorts of edgy shows.
I tried to find it. And I remember when they were going to do premiere season 1 of Ray Donovan, I think it was Anne, what's her name? Anne Kohler?
And Margaret?
Is it the creator of the show?
Oh, no. And Biderman, yeah, the main writer.
So she was saying, I knew I wanted to make this. I think it was her. So I knew I wanted to make this show, but I did not want the manscaping, perfect looking specimen. We needed a rugged person that you were kind of scared of if he was walking down the street. And the only one I could think of was Liev Schreiber,
nice.
Who has that rugged masculinity. I mean, I have a crush on him. I ain't gonna lie.
I've seen him in so many different movies, and also
he's not the handsome, he's not the
he's not the typical everyday kind. And
so I had the same thought, Tara, that he is sexy, but not in your typical way.
1,000%.
Exactly.
But he does know how to wear a suit, though.
He does.
He makes me really want to step up my wardrobe game a little bit.
and he does all that fighting in his white shirts.
Yes, always a white shirt, dark suit. That's his uniform.
Right.
And just the boxers or like these athletes will not look great after decades of fighting and being used so much and stuff like that. They did a great job with that.
He's been a good actor in any kind of movie, regardless of whether it was poorly made or not. He's kind of one of those, all these actors, I definitely can guarantee you, just they were casted based on, they will do a backstory for their character. And that's just rule number 1 of acting. Cause like when you're going to work with different directors and writers each episode, you still got to keep the same continuity going. It can't just be, well, I guess I'm schizophrenic this episode. I guess I'm mentally deficient the next episode. Wait, what?
How do they know if they're like, oh, by the way, Ray, you were also abused by that priest, and you're like, what? When did that happen?
Yeah,
it still worked for the main cast because they kept revealing things about Mickey, about their relationship.
You thought it was a revenge mission at first, and then it's like, oh, that makes better sense why he kept it all bottled up.
or like that Terry's father was Mickey was the one who was like, keep fighting, and now look at his son and stuff like that. Also,
that scene where he just Mickey places a bet. It's like some sort of underground fight that Terry. I don't remember what season that was.
It's easy to lose track of all the different.
Oh God, that was hard to watch. Yeah, where Terry just, if he wasn't already knocked senseless.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised he didn't get a heart attack before he got any of his other strokes. It just seems like everybody, like, they couldn't have picked a worser profession, and at the same time it's the only one they got going, because if they were to go legit now, no one would hire him because of the outstanding, warrants for their arrests and different aliases and other.
I kind of love the boxing. I mean, obviously I'm a Rocky person, so that's one of the things. I mean, admittedly, I didn't watch this series until like last year or a year.
Same. I was back and forth too. I waited for. It's always good to wait for a show to get to like 4+ seasons before you do the binge.
Yeah, so you don't get invested.
You'll forget all the key information.
See, that's where I'm at. I watched it all like pre-pandemic, and now like literally I was watching the movie before we came on the podcast today.
Oh, nice, dude.
That's helpful. So you have it fresh, but
such a sad movie.
Little bit, but the old episodes, man, they all kind of run together for me. I love them, but they I need to do a refresher one of these days.
Did you see? So I had Katie and Tara. I shared a review with them. It had some pretty decent reviews and some pretty great reviews. But then there was one giant critic who clearly was not a fan of the show and gave it a big ass D-. And we're like, whoa. And it was one of those, couldn't be any less interested. And it was one of those, it went downhill years ago. I'm like, well, which season? It sounds like you didn't like it at all. You could just say that. Yeah. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Just say.
You don't have to watch it. Just to hate.
Hate. Just
I thought it was phenomenal. Like for a movie post.
You should have seen me.
It was really good.
You should have totally seen me watching it. I thought it was just as good a closer as the various. There's been so many other great shows like Homicide 24 and Babylon 5, and even freaking Deadwood that had a good movie wrap up. And
it absolutely reminded me of the Deadwood movie wrap up.
I think it even might have had one of the same filmmakers, but you should have seen me. I'm just like trying to hold back tears. Is like, here's this giant scumbag, and Senior finally gets
poetic.
Yeah, it's so poetic.
Oh, and the Bridget, it's like, oh, she's become Ray.
That's
now,
what took me out of it. I was like, whoa, where'd she come from? And then I see Bucci coming. I'm like, oh, that's right, they were heading there. But it took me a minute. I'm like, whoa, where the hell did she come from with a gun?
And they were saying they were going to have a season 8, and that was going to be the final season, and then it just got canceled. So then they're like, man. I mean, if the fans really want it, we'll make it into a film.
And what a twist, because like Ray knew his dad was a scumbag, hanging out, giving advice on mafia pictures in the 70s, and then seeing him cover up for another wannabe actor who's a rising star. And then he's like, so I framed my dad. I did pretty much as bad a crime to him as he did to, all these other people. And
brutal.
His own children. I mean,
his own children.
I don't blame Ray for a second.
Well, one of my few complaints, I'm a little all over the place because I have comments about the movie and comments about the show, but one of my only complaints about the show is that and they're both with Ray, actually. I got annoyed after a while. I'm like,
just let it out, Ray.
Is there a single woman that he is incapable of not sleeping with? Like, it got old.
I got annoyed by that too. It's
predictable. I'm like, can he just not sleep with this one? He's incapable, and it was predictable to me, so that was annoying. And
they kind of abandoned it after season 2. You're like, no.
I know.
If you're gonna spy on your wife, then don't be going around doing the same thing too. Because like Power did similar stuff, but they always acknowledged, hey, we're in this to win it, so we're sticking together as a crime family, and we might get promiscuous on the side. It's like, okay, cool. So
in that world, it's seemingly okay for men to do it, but not the women, that's a whole nother show.
And I like how it does not slut shame anyone. You can tell that there's a diversity in the writer's room and everything, especially when they're bringing up all these taboo subjects and everything. It's like, it felt like they were very careful at just wording this, because I mean, we're going into even just almost all the clients are like A-list turned D-list actors who are working on professional film sets or dealing with mobsters who happen to also be movie producers or tabloid, creators. It does bring a sense. It's like, it does make you wonder how much of the real story do we get of a famous person,
I think, Katie, you make a great point in regards to like, Ray goes around and he bangs a lot of chicks. And that, I feel like that is a strike slightly against the show, that it lowers the show a little bit more to like guy fantasy stuff.
I
like,
really did.
Oh yeah,
like
I'm living vicariously through this character. He kicks ass. He gets dames or whatever. I just became a 1950s fan.
But, walking here, yeah.
But like I feel like that's not necessary. I don't need to see the protagonist have sex with every attractive woman that enters the plot.
And but he becomes his dad. Like I think there's irony in that his dad was the same way, and he hates his dad for all of it. And I think I cut over Tara.
But Katie, you had a second point that you didn't like.
Oh, regarding Mickey. So listen, I am not a fan of John Boyd, but I thought that he was so good as Mickey, the charming criminal. I mean, I really liked him. I really was like rooting for Mickey. I was. And so I thought Ray was I'm like, come on, Ray, like give him an inch, but he would never.
They take a while to kind of.
It's his children. I was like, oh my God, just somebody kill him right now.
They really do take a while. It's like, okay, he's not going to be killed, even though Ray so wants to kill him right now. And they fix it in season 2, but like Hal did hit on, it does get annoying when the show does kind of seem to want to cater to, hey, we're on premium channels. No one has to tell us what we can or can't air. But it did get it. I really hated in season 5 when they had that subplot with the boner pills, and I was just like, it doesn't contribute anything.
Yeah, I mean,
take it out of the episode. And like you say, much like the adultery, there are a few subplots that go absolutely nowhere. It's just like, okay, because like you guys mentioned, it was great seeing Hank Azaria because it was part of the whole, hey, cool seeing a comedian doing a dramatic work. Cochran was interesting. He's literally blackmailing all his agents and basically pulling other illegal favors, and then he still doesn't become the head FBI guy because of all his other baggage. And then he's back here. And like you guys say, it's funny seeing a guy who was supposedly legit at one point now being a crappy, journalist and investigator. And then still, that all backfires. And did you guys expect any of these other guest stars? Like I did not expect Mike Hammer himself, Stacy Keach, to be the Texan, Tom.
Oh yeah.
I was like, whoa, so Ray had an actual assassin mentor. Okay, interesting. And then that whole
Susan Sarandon. I mean, there were some pretty heavy hitters.
And that was my other complaint. When they first introduced her, I was like, I want to see more of her. But then her first few scenes, I didn't learn shit. And then by episode 3, I think, of 5, then we're like, okay, so the reason she's this strong, hard person is because she feels responsible for like causing a death of her kid or some crazy shit. And then we finally get to see the goods. But I do feel like Lena and Avi kind of keep it together. Like they, much like any of these hardened characters, you guys brought up some good stuff like Blade and even Jack Bauer, is like all these other characters pretty much bring out the, like you say, what the character can't speak. Lena and Avi pretty much are always saying, you're a hard ass or you're a prick sometimes. Can you please talk to us?
I miss that dynamic of them in that agency. The last couple of seasons, honestly.
Avi apparently, Stephen Bauer, the portrayer, apparently he was coming to set late and holding up filming and just high as a kite. And Pooch Hall.
Oh, I don't want to hear that. That's interesting.
I've heard he can be difficult to work with.
I was sad when he left. I was like,
I know it was so ideal, and you kind of wanted a follow-up. Is like, in fact, I would have rather they actually go to Israel or something. It's like, hey, they killed Avi, we gotta avenge him, some shit like that. Whereas like,
Avi and Lena were highlights. I really liked those two.
Yeah.
Oh, and Catherine Monig, you've never seen her.
Comebacks. She was the only one who could really talk back at him.
Good point.
Kudos to the staging of these scenes, because like when Lena and Ray walk into a scene, they're not in slow motion or anything. It's like they're walking like everyday average Joes. Even though they're wearing a suit, they even take a while to kind of struggle to get their gun when they're in a gunfight. And I do like that. It isn't John Wick where hyper over stylized and in on the joke, but still unrealistic. And it's like, no, that this is embracing the implausibilities, but it's also showing that they still got some perks. They're still going to bleed out.
And they always look slightly different. Back to like Katie's comment of like, these characters don't look like what
exactly.
And even the women. But there's a part, and I think maybe in season 1, when Abby is just like looking at a house and all these other Calabasas moms and stuff, and
Abby has nothing to do, so she is looking for that thing, and it's like Ray made her happy at one point, and then when he's at the office all day, then the kudos to the writers, she didn't become a plot device after a while. She didn't become someone who was there to just be a whiner. Is like, and like you say,
I loved her and Terry's relationship.
That was a fun twist. Is like, well, I'm sorry, he might be my stepbrother technically, but I love him.
But it was just and just like Lena is not the way that she would be able to get inside, like a hotel or something, like to fix the problem.
She's used to it, and I love how she does roast.
You don't think that a person like that, because she looks so distinct, but she can get away with everything.
She can wear she calls in favors from her various girlfriends, and I like how they also, it's like what one kind of, like you mentioned, how there are a few missed opportunities. I really wish they could have hit more on Ray's like firm, because like at day they're like, it's a part flower shop, part fixer firm. But you literally forget that by season 2, and it goes back to the boxing ring, we're having less income. And it's like, and they get all distracted with, someone's got to pay for it, so we got to pressure Bunchy or Terry to be in charge of it, because who else is going to run it, even though they don't want to teach boxing anymore. But I do love how Lena every once in a while is like, she flat out just roasts Ray. Is like, we're going to shake on this, but the minute I'm your receptionist again, go fuck yourself. I'm not doing this.
One thing on the show that I found to be sadly very inaccurate was when the season's in Los Angeles, the amount of time it takes Ray to drive anywhere is way too quick.
Yeah, they took some very free license with that after a while.
Of course.
Dude gets from like the west side to like
I'll be over there in a minute,
and east side to Culver City so fast. I'm like, never. Not even on like a Sunday morning are you gonna zoom over. It's going into
the guy's fantasy, and it's like, this is not a game like Grand Theft Auto. This isn't go around free roaming, and
unless Ray knows these
so easily. They always
finding parking.
Same in New York. They zip around.
I was like, you take the subway. Bullshit, you're taking it.
Yeah, because like with Sam, producer, it makes sense. She's powerful enough. They've established people fear her. All kinds of people fear her, so she can call in all favors. Yeah, I'll blackmail the doctor to perform an illegal surgery on Bridget's stupid boyfriend. But like you say with the travel, is like they make use of it at first, kind of just showing how just Ray's at his best when he does it. He's just at himself, and he can just watch the beautiful skies. But then like after a while, it's back and forth. It's like whoa. And after a while, it does seem like, I will say the last 3 seasons, my main issue is it does seem at that point like anyone can be bribed. It's like, even then, as a briber, your skills got to be kind of see-through after a while, to where even other people want to manipulate you or aren't going to go for that as much. Because like, it was fun in the first few seasons how Ray was deciding, okay, well, my kids love my father, so I'm going to keep them alive, but I'm going to bribe their parole officers. But then after a while, that gets old with, it's like, okay, who hasn't been bribed? Who has not been, overdosed and held ransom? Is like, they kind of don't do as much with even Frank, the other FBI guy who later becomes like the head. And they kind of take a while to even kind of acknowledge, it's like, oh yeah, that's right, he did get killed by the half brother. It's like, I kind of felt like after a while, the FBI, they didn't know how they wanted to have them
that was going
around full circle. And it's like, why not just focus on that instead of introducing all these other underworld crime fighters? There
were a lot. Like and they were all seemingly, well, aside from the Russians, but they all had like Irish last names. So
even the priest
Boston.
Romero, is that an Irish name? And
No.
I love how they don't trust him at first, but I guess Romero's more
Italian or Latin.
But I didn't want to watch the show initially because something about, I just thought it was going to be like Hollywood glitzy fixer.
Yeah.
And so I put off because that doesn't turn me on at all.
And the reviews were very confusing. They didn't say whether it was good or bad. They just kind of seemed like they had been handed a screener and they were like, this will appeal to so-and-so, but it didn't sound like they were a fan of Breaking Bad type shows. And like Hal said, some of it does go into some of the lesser moments that I thought plagued The Sopranos after a while, where it's like, okay, it's a guy's world. This season 4 was great, like Tara said, because it approached how toxic masculinity is very rampant, and now it's kind of becoming almost, the characters are being too toxic to where it doesn't feel like it's in on the joke. Season 5, did you guys kind of find it funny how Mickey's on the run in New Mexico and he encounters again those casino guys? And I just thought it was so funny how it's called Buffalo Bills, because the actor is Ted Levine, who was Buffalo Bill in the Extra movies. You might know him also as the captain on Monk, but yeah, he's a good actor. And that's another kind of complaint. That heist in that casino takes forever. And it's just very annoying when you want to show planning, yes, but I think that was a big factor of different directors and writers coming in. Is like, okay, this should have, every subplot should end 3 episodes more than it lasts. It doesn't need to go on that long.
Right.
Because
I really enjoy.
Go ahead.
Oh, Katie.
This is silly, but I forget that you guys don't know me, and I'm a big dog person. Like, I really like dogs, but I also very much like big dogs. And so
who doesn't love a good lab?
The most amazing dog on a TV show, you guys.
Abby's dog.
The doggo Argentino that Abby brings home.
How did they find him?
Dog. His name is Dog.
They like lose him in like season 2, and then they find him in like season 3, episode 2. How did they find him?
No, she just found him. He was like a stray, or he
but he goes missing for a few episodes.
She brings him home. I can't remember. It seemed like it was in one of the later seasons, and then he was there, I think, after she passed away. Still, and then all of a sudden he's gone.
Terry,
I'm like, where's the dog?
Yeah,
the damn dog.
And he was her protector. He would sleep on Ray's side, and Ray knew, like, he was the one's like, you're gonna keep cheating on her? Go sleep on the couch.
He's kind of an afterthought.
I had to bring up the dog, but anyway, I don't know where he went.
You kind of like Teresa, and even Tommy, the one closeted actor who's one of Ray's clients. It just seems like after a while they kind of bring him up and then they forget him again, and then they bring him up again. You're like, where was he before? Was the actor unavailable? Yeah.
What were you going to say, Hal? I apologize for.
Yeah, no. I love a little dog love. My wife and I have two pups over here as well. But I was back to the casino heist and everything. You know, we touched a little bit on Jon Voight, who I think has gone off the deep end in real life. But,
in real life,
yes. But man, I can't help but really adore like his accent and the way he delivers his lines on this show. And one of my favorite things, in the casino wise, I just a friend of mine and I who we watch the show together. We love the way he says, "The gorgeous green horseshoe, the gorgeous green horseshoe." They got this gorgeous green horseshoe with all the money on it. God, I can't stop saying gorgeous green horseshoe.
And just
love it.
It kind of seems like the filmmakers were kind of in on the joke too. You know, at his character, because I mean, even that line that James Woods is another one, and he plays the hitman who they later dispatch in the first season, and one line he says, "You people in LA," and I almost felt like that was an inside joke. He would totally say a line like that.
Yeah, you liberals out in LA.
But it was funny how I think Jon Voight, because of how confusing he is in real life, just how he'll say something progressive one minute and then just say all this other outrageous stuff at Trump conventions the next. It's like, I think that's because of how confusing he is. That's why he was perfect to play Ray's dad. He's in a biracial relationship, and then the next minute he's making all these slurs that Irish mobsters are known to say, and yet at the same time he'll go, "I love my boys, but yeah, I'm gonna sell Ray out to the feds because fuck you, Ray.
Yeah. I'm sure.
He's super flawed too. He was probably abused, so it's like generational, as you guys were talking about.
Generational. Yes.
So
and
Mickey.
I've loved him in Runaway Train and Enemy of the State, just playing all these bizarre portrayals. But did anyone catch in season 5 when they got to fake Abby's death with the other guy videotaping it using the digital movies? I love how the guy at one point says, "This is like a Michael Mann movie, isn't it?" And I was like, I'm totally, this whole time I've been getting vibes of something.
Oh yeah, John Voight also in the best Michael Mann movie, Heat.
Yeah, right? He's one of the underlings, and his character, I think...
John Voight is in that? I haven't seen it in forever.
Okay.
Yeah, John Voight has a small part. He's like the fence. He's like the guy they contact to sell the stolen goods.
And wasn't his character inspired by Eddie Bunker, whose exploits were used in Runaway Train, which he was in? And
I don't know.
He plays Mr. Blue, and the guy who dies in the steering wheel in no, actually the other guy who dies off screen in the
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. And I do feel like a lot of this was definitely inspired by, everything. David Ayer, Michael Mann, Eddie Bunker, and definitely some Tarantino-esque moments. It's just, I mean, from within the first episode, if you want to venture in this, because I mean, it opens up with, again, a rapper who Ray's saying, be on best behavior and don't invite a hooker who's going to overdose, and I'm going to have to bury their body at the end of the day. But I mean, it is interesting too how, I mean, all of us have been in a job or know someone who's been in a job where we basically just took the money and ran, where our boss is terrible or our coworker is flawed. And here basically is like Ray is just basically evil fighting far bigger evil. It is almost like a Punisher comic book at times. It's like just about everybody here, has their demons.
A little bit. Yeah, he has to, he's forced. Because, Ray, like so many great characters, like I think of The Wire when I use this phrase.
The Wire's a good contrast.
He lives by a code,
That's a good...
He's got, he's a man with a moral compass, but then he kind of has to shut that off a lot of time.
Because, remember Omar
he's dealing
was that
with
way?
Darkness.
But yeah, remember Omar on The Wire? He was the same way. He was the Robin Hood of the Hood. I'm stealing from gangsters, but... Yeah, I'm still trying to avoid being killed.
Man's got to have a code.
Got to have a code. It's all
another
in the game.
Show with a shit ton of characters,
right?
Oh yeah,
it takes us a while to learn everyone.
Yes, for sure.
That was another flaw of this show, because The Wire handled the media better, and even serial killers better. And one issue I definitely had, and I keep going back to season 5, when they introduced Jake Busey's Acid Man serial killer. Where the fuck did that come from? I was just like, okay, so I know he's a serial killer. I don't need to see a dead dog carcass in his backyard. I don't need to see all this other stuff.
This is in Ray Donovan?
Yeah, remember when Bucci gets robbed by Chef Dave?
Okay.
And they're trying to get the money back.
There's too much that happens on this show.
That's the thing.
I don't know how you're pulling out things from which season. I'm like, I don't know what happens.
I was taking some
it blends together
notes.
a little for me as well.
It does. And there's some subplots that just really annoyed me, so I kept writing them down. That was one. Because then there's another one subplot where they're talking about her movie, and then they don't really ever talk about what happened to that movie. I was like, well, shit, I kind of want to know what happened to that movie she was branching but then there's a blooper where I'm like, my screenwriting 101 head kind of wouldn't shut up, where they're like, the first $1 billion movie made for the internet. I'm like, I honest to goodness doubt that anything would cost that much in this day and age. Come on.
The next Avatar movie.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, but even then, it just felt like they were kind of stretching a bit. It's like, I can buy all these other actors who are, playing bad guys and then actual villains off screen, but they have a nice guy image and they're endorsing, and next thing you know, Ray's encountering them at a fundraiser. But then there were other ones where it's like, come on, guys. There needs to be like one or two nosy reporters who's like, hey, what are you doing? And then, because Ray is always kind of lucks out, like you say, and it goes back to the whole guy's fantasy is like, And when you get to the final season where he's doing security, I love what the press stops following him all of a sudden. It's like, I'm pretty sure there'd still be a guy out for TMZ kind of sneaking out and saying, why is Ray cornering this asshole who's stalking the actress he's protecting? He lucks out the first few times with like snatching away someone's phone, but surely someone's got to have video of someone else taking video. You know? Oh, so I'm sorry. I talked way too long on that, but you guys,
no worries.
You guys, the to Hall's earlier point, I do feel like The Wire, again, because it had the right kind of guys tackling real life issues, it did so good at portraying schools and the media and its reaction to various topics and even serial killers. And I feel like this show kind of does take a little too many shortcuts at time. And I in some ways, I still applaud them for having there be a new big bad every season, but at the same time, sometimes they kind of wrote themselves into a corner on that aspect. Yeah. Like I really dug the Finney family, Ian McShane and Katie Holmes. I was just like,
oh yeah.
And then
love Ian McShane. We mentioned Deadwood before. That guy's freaking great.
Yeah. And I love how he's not Mr. Invincible. After a while, he runs out of frets to give to where after a while, he's just like, yeah, fuck you, Ray, we're done. You know, but I loved how at that point, like Katie was hitting on earlier, how at that point, Abby and Ray do not trust each other. They are only here for the kids, and Ray's only allowed to visit on certain days. And I loved how it's like, even though he did not sleep with Paige, he still accepted a kiss from her, and that was enough to set Abby off. It was like, business. Right. Fuck you, Ray. I thought we were, and I love it. Does also show you how they've been taking advantage of each other's trust for so long to where I love you absolutely will not mean anything. Is like Abby legit thought, okay, Ray, he's tired of us yelling at him, so he's finally gone straight. It's like, no, he's literally trying to marry himself into politics, and even Ray should have known better. Don't trust a politician.
I'm curious what Hal thinks about. I'm wondering. So Ray and Abby were high school sweethearts in Southie, right? In Boston. Do you think that had they not moved to scandalous LA with all the beautiful people, if he would have had so much of a wandering eye?
I think I think he would have died way earlier, because had he not met Abby, ironically, he might have gone for the Sullivan gal, Molly, played by Carrie Condon from, you know her from Better Call Saul and a bunch of other movies, The Last Station, Unleashed. And I think you might also know her from Rome. She played Octavia, but I thought he would have probably fallen in love with Molly, and then her dad, James, and the brother Declan might have killed him.
Yeah, and I think Ray, whether you put him kept him on the East Coast in Southie, or whether you move him to Los Angeles, I think he was doomed to repeat the sins of his father.
Yeah.
I think he was hardwired to betray his wife, even though he loved her fiercely. He was just hardwired to be a womanizer.
Right. He was too repressed as a kid. And once again, the Catholic priest raped him and his brother as a kid, and he decided to murder him and cover it up. Is like, that was the last thing working. He could have literally maybe been a priest and done some good. But again, with the lack of a mother, and me and my grandmother strongly believe this. We see so many people who go with just single parents throughout their lives. And I know everyone varies. Not all of it's bad, but it does make a significant difference when you got two voices modeling you growing up that way. And to not have someone who can remind them, hey, you're doing good work, to retaliate for, hey, your dad's a prick, but he loves you, but he's also a bad person, so stay away. He didn't have that. So
yeah, you're like either doomed to go for someone just like or the exact opposite of your opposite sex parent. Isn't that what they say? Something
right.
Yeah, because none of his father figures were good people either.
None.
You have Elliot Gould, who used him.
And Terry and Bunchy kind of look to Ray as their unofficial father figure, because he's the one. He's the only one telling him, "You got this. You're a boxer. You can make a living doing this." And then next thing you know, that was also kind of. I wish that could have been explored territory too. I wish they could have even said, all their boxing gigs. And that was a cop out too, when they, I mean, much like Hal's earlier point, when that doesn't seem to have any idea of the New York, LA thing. It's like, okay, I get that Bridget is visiting and Connor's enlisting and there's bound to be an embassy where he visits, but Terry moved his boxing ring way too conveniently. I'm like, when did this other boxing promotion
Well, they weren't
happen?
making money, so I mean, it didn't really matter.
But they should have still kind of voiced that a little bit. They should have said, okay, filed Chapter 11, fled the place, changed their name, but they didn't. They just kind of
light a match, walk away. Yeah,
that would have been insane. I would have loved to have seen that instead of all the stupid boner pills and other shit. It's just like, because season 5, it does have some cool endings, but there's so much other stuff where it's like they should have really, like you say, is like, I did get sick of how their landlady they treat like trash after a while, and she's like, I'm just telling you what's ideal, you're not going to sell your place in this market. And after a while it just seems like she's just another person who they're there to yell at.
I know we're probably running out of time, but I have to get feelings about in the movie, the guy who plays young Mickey.
He's great.
Who was that actor? He did really
Bill Heck. Wasn't he just amazing? He picked up all of what's his face, all his mannerisms and everything.
John Voight, and then made the role
talking about John Voight as an actor, I was like, we should give credit to the young Mickey, because I was like, they don't look alike, but they do. Again, you don't question it. I could see it.
I could see the dynamic. I also like the young Ray. I thought he had a quiet intensity to him as well.
Loved young Ray.
He learned from
the actor playing the movie star. I think he's like a Croatian actor.
Yes,
I knew him from Madam's Secretary, and I was like, I know that guy the whole time. I'm like, and he did a hell of a job. He's like, hey, I want to be like this guy, not knowing, oh, holy shit, method acting. It's a dangerous thing, and I like how that the show, again, like you guys have described, it touches on important points.
The actors really, if anything, that saves this show, because the writing does sometimes like the plot points and all sorts of stuff. But I do love the show and I do rewatch it, but it was always the acting that is top notch. If they're annoying, there's a reason why they're annoying. That's how it was made.
I will applaud you guys for mentioning those. Those guys were highlights. Michael Hyatt, there's another Wire connection as the detective Sheila, who's tracking them in season 3 and 4, was a highlight for me. Is like, okay, good. Here's a detective who's not in it for profit and just wants to organize this manhunt. Mac, the NYPD sergeant who unexpectedly rescues Ray, that was cool, because they kept playing us for fools, where we're like,
he's in The Wire too, wasn't he? Dominic
Lombardi, Wire connection. And
Wendell Pierce. Wendell Pierce was also on the show.
The parole guy said, this is a who's who of The Wire 24.
Yeah, he was Bunk on The Wire.
Yes, he was.
If you love him on this, you'll definitely love him on Jack Ryan right now. He does a hell of a job as the Muslim CIA chief. That actor can do no wrong. But I really dug Mac, because he keeps taking advantage of us as the viewers. We're like, so is he loyal to the Blue? Is he loyal to his job? Is he going along with the ransom? And when he takes Bridget unexpectedly hostage, is like, whoa. Now this show is really going bananas, but it's so organized with the bananas plot twist. But at the same time, the show ended when it really needed to end. And the movie was, like you guys touched on, just icing on the cake. It just really just said, this is it. No more.
It was a perfect goodbye, I thought.
Yeah. And it's kind of a shame that you can now stream it on Peacock and Vudu, but that was kind of another deal. It just wasn't available on many streaming platforms. So I think the fan base has slowly caught up to it. Because like you guys mentioned earlier.
That's the trouble with a lot of Showtime stuff. Because for a while I was trying to find the show Yellow Jackets, which is a really stunning new show.
And the on-demand thing on my Spectrum.
I've heard that said.
Absolutely
you'll really
worth checking out Yellow Jackets.
A really good psychological thriller, like you guys were touching on, and that's what makes it stand out from, say, a typical Twilight Zone or Star Trek knockoff. And like you guys also touched on, every bit of fandom kind of comes in just waves. And unfortunately, Showtime, like, it's such a hassle. Each time I was going into my Spectrum just to watch an episode, it wouldn't keep track of what episode I just watched. So if anyone's going to do this, if you're not buying a Blu-ray pack, then definitely whatever streaming platform it's on, make time. And then you'll know after season 1 if you want to continue or not.
People will probably become, I learned this term just today when I was trying to refresh my memory. There's a term, Donovan.
Is there really?
For fans of the show, Donovan.
Well, now I learned something. Donovan. The Donnas. That's awesome.
Well, it's great to meet some fellow Donna fans.
Right.
Yay.
This has been a joy having you all on here. So where can we find you on the web? Katie, you go first.
This has been an absolute pleasure meeting all of you and discussing a fantastic show. And the show that I co-host with Ryan and Kyle is called One More Round, the Rocky Series podcast. And, whatever podcast platform you use.
Last of the Action Heroes Network. Check out all their shows. They will. Yeah,
there's some great shows on there's a whole network of guy stuff. I'm like, I think the only female voice, but
key voice.
But I'm in good company.
Yeah. You and Ryan do a hell of a job. Just kind of, because it's just very constructive criticism. It's like, instead of, I hate the scene, I fast forward the scene, it's like, what would make this scene better? It was so funny when they took on Cobra and a bunch of other Stallone movies that are hit and miss. He's like,
the bad ones are even probably more fun.
I love how they had to force themselves to go through Fist, which is a movie dealing with like work riot strikes, and they're like well intended, but is it a drag going through? And does it age well? And yeah, it's crazy. Hal, what are you working on that you'd like to plug?
Thanks. By the way, let me echo what Katie was saying. I really enjoyed talking with everybody here today.
Thank you.
To talk about such a fun show.
It was electric.
Boogie woogie woogie.
Magnetic.
Indeed. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hal Rudnick, and I do a streaming podcast called Binge Boys that I co-host with my old pal Lon Harris from Screen Junkies, and you can find Binge Boys wherever you get your podcasts. And then I also do I'm live streaming all the time at twitch.tv/Hal Rudnick. So I'm all over the web. You can find me, and thanks again, Cam, Tara, Katie. Great to meet you all.
Stellar. Tara, talk to us.
It was
what do you got?
So nice to meet other Donna fans.
Yes.
Cam and I've been on the show before, and every once in a while we're like, do you watch Ray Donovan? I do. And no one ever wants to talk about it because there's so much to talk about it, and people have left the show.
Absolutely. And it's got to be also the right phase, you got to be ready to talk about that.
And it was serendipitous that we did it right after the film comes out and all sorts. So we're like, we have a conclusion. So thank you for having me on. Lovely.
Unlike Ray, we're very patient people. We don't just endlessly go after vengeance.
So it's been great. I have a podcast, Who Was She podcast about women throughout history. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Tara_Jabbari. Anything movie, film, television related, book
something
related.
Good came out of this. We all want to check out each other's work instead of be in a closed bubble like Ray, where I'm not comfortable with even my own kin.
No, see, we're Donna fans, but we embrace others.
We love seeing the shit hit the fan as opposed to I'm gonna be just like that asshole when I grow up.
It was a pleasure talking with you all.
Absolutely. And everyone stay safe out there, treat each other with respect, and don't let anything eat you up. And everyone's got some issues or dilemmas, so do address them instead of letting them blow up in your face in ugly fashion, unlike these characters.
Don't let it pass through generations.
Yeah. And think about someone other than yourself. If you have some a family member who you got to inevitably meet at dinner party, just bite your tongue. You don't have to say what's really on your mind.
Or have it out with them.
There you go.
One or the other.
There are plenty of people post-COVID who I was just like, I don't care if I ever meet you again at a family event. I never said that, but I thought it. And
really good. Well, thank you so much for having us on, Cameron. This was a lot of fun for me, and I hope to stay in touch with you guys. You guys were
likewise.
A blast.
Hopefully everyone else learned a bunch about the show, but thank you all.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up